What's up guys, hope you're having a good day. In this video we're going to be going over all of our bets from the previous week, taking a look at our profits and losses from that last week's UFC Fight Night versus Rodriguez Waterson card, and also looking ahead to this week's stacked UFC 262 card, which I'm very much looking forward to. So I enjoy putting these weekly videos out where we recap on our previous week's performance, because it allows us to take a deep dive into all of our bets and, learn from any mistakes we made, and also, give ourselves a little bit of a pat on the back and celebrate the hard work we put in to even be able to produce these kind of results in the first place. Of course, it's very, very difficult to even break even gambling on anything, so the fact that we make any kind of profit is a huge achievement, and we should be fucking proud of it, to be honest with you. So I stopped doing these weekly videos for a little while I had to do a lot of work on my website, restructuring the way that content was displayed, but now we're coming to the end of that, which means I've got more free time to get back to doing these weekly videos. There are still some changes and some fixes that I need to do to the website, which I'll talk a little bit about in this video, but for the most part they're done now. So let's start off by looking at our pre-fight bets from last week. Let's look at our loose bets. So if we scroll down, I also just want to let you guys know that the results charts on the website, they get updated once a month. Hiltsy, a member of my community, great guy that keeps these results up to date for me. The end of every month we'll go through all the bets on the website and update these profitability charts. We do also have that message up here, and that's just so that we're not creating more work for ourselves than we need to. There's no real need to update the results every week. Once a month is fine at the end of every month, and that stops us from quadrupling a job. So just wanted to let you guys know that none of the profits and losses we're going to be going over in this video are reflected in these profitability charts yet. You can see the profit charts updated for up to April, and yeah man, at the end of May they'll be updated. So obviously we had 3 bets for last week. In fact, that's not true. We had 4 bets. We also had Amanda Ribas to beat Angela Hill, but that fight was cancelled after Amanda Ribas tested positive for COVID, which is really annoying because she came out today saying she feels absolutely fine and she thinks that it was a false positive. So Angela Hill's talking about getting that fight rescheduled for 2 weeks' time, and hopefully they can do it. I was a little bit annoyed that the fight got cancelled, if I'm being honest with you, because I had a real specific strategy going into this event. We bet Carlston Harris to beat Christian Aguilera, who came through for us in a big way. We also bet Gregor Gillespie to beat Carlos Diego Ferreira, who also came through for us in a big way. We had Jeff Neal to beat Neil Magny, which was obviously a loser. And then the 4th bet would have been Ribas to beat Hill. It's very, very frustrating that fight got cancelled, because the strategy that I had going into this event for loose bets was, I personally felt that Carlston Harris, Gregor Gillespie, Jeff Neal and Amanda Ribas were absolutely rock solid bets. Really, really, really solid. All of them had significant advantages over their opponents, which we discussed last week, and the probability of the majority of those fighters winning was very, very high. The probability of all 4 losing, very low. Probability of 3 of the 4 losing, pretty low. Probability of 2 of them losing, quite low. And I personally went into this thinking, what, if all 4 of those fighters win, that's a great profit for us. But the likelihood is one of them probably will underperform, one of them probably won't win, but going 3-1 is still going to produce a decent profit for us. So with Amanda Ribas, the fight being cancelled, it then meant that we needed, a perfect night going 3-0 in order to grind out a really, really solid profit. And it's difficult to do that, right? So disappointing that the Ribas fight got cancelled. We still made a profit. We went 2-1 for the night, but it was only a small profit. And disappointing that Ribas fight got cancelled, because I personally felt that Ribas was, a pretty fucking good bet against Hill, and I'm hoping that they reschedule. So let's take a look at each of the bets that we did have. So Carlston Harris to beat Christian Aguilera. He looked absolutely phenomenal. I was a little bit nervous early on when Christian Aguilera was able to stuff that first takedown that Carlston Harris threw at him. We saw in the footage last week that Carlston Harris was a super strong offensive wrestler. We saw that Christian Aguilera's takedown offense and ground game was very, very bad. Thankfully, as soon as the fight did go to the ground, Harris was able to submit him quickly, but that came from something that we didn't anticipate. Certainly didn't anticipate Carlston Harris to hurt Aguilera's standing. But I said in live betting, in my live betting commentary to my live betting members, as soon as you see a guy like Christian Aguilera shoot a takedown on a superior grappler, we know that he was hurt very, very bad off that left hook that Harris landed, because Aguilera would know if he'd done his homework on Harris, that going to the ground with this guy was a death sentence. So shout out to Carlston Harris, he came through for us in a big way. But a guy that came through for us in an even bigger way was Gregor Gillespie. Absolutely phenomenal performance against Carlos Diego Ferreira. And, obviously a big risk factor to this bet last week was Carlos Diego Ferreira missing weight by 4.5 pounds. We even saw that Ferreira missing weight even had an influence on the odds. All week Gregor Gillespie was in this 1.57 minus 175 range, but then on fight day we saw Gillespie's odds improve dramatically, right? If we get the implied probability calculator out, apologies, I'm not great with American odds. If we look at the odds I saw just before the fight started, odds available of 1.66 minus 152 available on Gregor. And I think that was because, we know that Gregor likes to push a crazy pace and break people with his work rate and hustle. And obviously, with Carlos Diego Ferreira not trying that hard to make the 156-pound limit, that obviously meant that he was going to be a lot fresher in the fight because he didn't deplete his energy levels as much to make the weight. And so, it was likely that Ferreira would have been able to have performed well for longer than he would have been able to had he made the weight. So on Saturday, I know a few of you guys were coming into the VIP chat room and saying, should we hedge out of this bet? What do you think about Ferreira missing weight, this kind of thing? And I just said, look, at the end of the day, we bet on Gillespie because, he's a cardio machine, he's tough as nails, and he's got a big advantage when it comes to grappling over Ferreira. And so let's let the bet ride, and at the end of the day, if Gillespie loses because Ferreira, is able to fight at a more capable level for longer because he didn't make weight, well, that's just the nature of the game, right? It's fucking gambling. But thankfully, Gillespie did come through for us. But I did watch an interview with Gregor Gillespie yesterday, and it's just really cool. It's quite inspirational. And it kind of echoes, it really echoes how I felt about this fight. So it's just 3 short clips from this interview that I want to play for you, and just pretty cool. Let me know what you think in the comments below.
Great. That looked exhausting, but it was a fantastic fight, a fantastic performance. How did you feel it was going to go? Did you know it was basically going to be just scramble the entire time?
It looked tiring because it was tiring. It was super tiring, yeah. And I said to a couple people already in the back, like DC, I think, asked me right after the fight, he's like, you looked a little like, we've never seen you tired before. Were you tired? Yeah. I was exhausted, and I think there's a difference. I think people are going to watch that and say, Gillespie's out of shape. There's a huge difference in being out of shape and being tired. I was tired. I'm not out of shape. That guy stuck with that pace and, added to that pace in the first round. And I don't know if you want to call it I baited him into going that pace or I forced him to go that pace, but that's how I do it. I go that hard. And sometimes I don't have to keep going that hard. Sometimes the guy is not as good on the bottom. He can't escape. He can't roll. He can't force me off of him. He can't reverse me. So that's less tiring. Diego was able to do that a few times. And he put me in danger at the end of that first round. He got out on me. I don't know if he reversed me, whatever. There's a lot of fur flying in that first round. It was exhausting, and I was tired. But the difference is, I'll still operate when I'm that tired, and I'm okay being that tired. It was really uncomfortable, but if I even said to my coaches walking through the hallway a little bit ago, I kind of had conceded to the fact that if it was going to have to be 3 rounds of that, then that's cool. I accepted that going into the second round and said, if that's what we're going to do, then that's what we're going to do. Cool. That he quit before we got there.
To be clear, the only reason I mentioned it was not as an indictment on your cardio, which we know is fantastic. I just think it's a testament to the pace that you guys actually put on.
So that's really cool what Gregor said there, because on Saturday night in the live betting commentary, at the end of the first round, I actually said during the commentary, look, I know Gregor is struggling right now. When he walked back to his corner, he looked extremely shaky and extremely tired. But I said to the guys, in live betting, Gregor has never given us any reason to doubt his gas tank, ever. Ferreira has. It was one of the main reasons why we bet on Gregor Gillespie this week. And for that reason, I was happy to just stay with our bet, because even though we looked tired going back to his corner, I thought, let's just see how the beginning of the second round goes. Let's pay attention to Gregor's footwork and movement and breathing patterns when he comes out for that second round. And when he did come out for the second round, he looked fine. It was so bizarre. He looked done at the end of round 1, but by the time he was ready to go at the beginning of round 2, Gregor looked fine. And of course, as we know, it turned out that in round 2, it was Ferreira that was more tired. He couldn't keep up with the pace that Gregor set, and ultimately it was really cool to hear Gregor say that, because we bet on Gregor knowing it would be very, very unlikely that Ferreira would be able to keep up with the pace that Gregor set. And for Gregor to actually say that is just kind of cool, because it backs up all the research we did last week, and it kind of justifies the reasons for betting on him. But there's some more cool parts to this interview that I also want to play. This part is pretty cool. If we go to about here, this part's pretty cool.
Awesome fish.
That would be a fun battle to watch for sure.
Yeah.
Just to speculate, because like you said, you haven't missed the weight, but you have understood like what it does when you do have to deplete yourself to get to make weight. So when you said that he kind of quit towards the third, how much do you think how bad he failed and how, I guess, diminished that he made for himself could have been possibly a factor?
He would have quit earlier had he made the weight. And I'm not saying this because he's a quitter, but I put a hard pace on him. And, I threw myself into that firestorm, and I got myself in a little bit of trouble in a couple spots there. But it's like, I just have a huge heart. And maybe if he'd have lost that extra 4.5 pounds, he would have quit earlier. But it wouldn't, I'll put it this way, it wouldn't have helped him, depleting his body 4.5 more pounds. But, again, I do everything perfect, and I mean, maybe a lot of people say always on the smaller side of 155. Well, sure. I don't want to come in 18 over and have to lose it and then risk not making weight at the end. So I come in a little lighter. I diet almost year round, so I don't know. Some people should probably do the same.
And then speaking, I think this goes to the heart that you said that you showed.
So again, really cool there for Gregor to kind of echo the kind of like the concern that we had on Friday night. We were talking about this in the VIP chat room, where we were kind of thinking, do we let this bet ride on Gregor? Because the primary reason we bet on Gregor was for him to basically put a pace on Ferreira wouldn't be able to keep up with, and we were worried that with him not killing himself to make weight, he'd be able to fight more effectively for longer. And it's cool again just to kind of see Gregor saying exactly the same thing, and it echoes how I feel about it. Had Ferreira pushed himself to cut that extra 4.5 pounds and make that weight, there's no way Gillespie would have been in as much trouble in round 1 as he was, because I think Ferreira would have just burnt himself out faster. So, we definitely had to sweat this bet a little bit with how tired Gregor looked at the end of the first round, and some of the positions Ferreira had Gregor in towards the end of the first round when Gregor was belly down and Ferreira on his back. But ultimately the reasons why we bet Gregor came through, and it was nice to cash this bet, and the fight pretty much played out exactly how we thought it would. The only exception being, Ferreira missed weight and did a hell of a lot better in round 1 than we thought he would. Anyway, and of course Gillespie looking a lot more tired than we thought he would. So then the third bet we had, Jeff Neal against Neil Magny. Obviously our only losing bet for the night on these loose pre-fight bets, and Neil came out, did really, really good early. Performed very well. It was one of those situations where, we knew that Neil would have a lot of success when he pushed Magny back, because Magny doesn't react well to pressure fighters, and we've seen Jeff Neal, he used a lot of pressure in his past fights. He put a lot of pressure on Stephen Thompson, a lot of pressure on Belal Muhammad to force those guys to fight on the back foot. And we know Magny struggles bad when you force him to fight on the back foot. Unfortunately, there just wasn't as much forward pressure from Neil as we've seen from him in his fight against Stephen Thompson or against Belal Muhammad. There was much less pressure, much less volume. And, you know, when he let his hands go, he was causing Magny big trouble. You know, he was landing clean and hard on Magny. And the scoring of this fight was a little bit annoying. You know, we spoke on Friday night in the live betting commentary about how, you know, if you look at strikes landed in the Juan Archuleta versus Sergio Pettis fight, you know, Archuleta probably landed more than Pettis, but it was Pettis doing the cleaner work. Pettis landing the harder, more damaging, more significant shots. And if you go back and watch Jeff Neal versus Neil Magny, Magny really didn't land very much in that fight until very late in round 3. For example, in round 2, you'd see Magny come forward, uncork like 4, 5, 6 strike combinations, but nothing would land. They were all range-finding strikes. They'd all be caught on the hands and gloves of Neil. When Neil would open up, he would land clean and hard on Magny and back him up. So it was just one of those annoying fights where Neil's striking was far more effective, it was far more damaging, but the judges went with Magny's hustle, which I completely agree. You know, I understand, I completely get it, but I don't feel Magny achieved a lot. But disappointing to take a loss on this bet, because not only was it a close fight, but on top of that, I do feel Jeff Neal didn't perform as well as we'd hoped. We wanted the Jeff Neal that fought Stephen Thompson or the Jeff Neal that fought Belal Muhammad to show up, the kind that would just come forward with a lot of pressure, force Magny onto the back foot, and, you know, take advantage and punish Magny for his poor boxing defense. You know, Magny's very bad defensively, very easy to hit, and to some degree we saw that in the fight. There just wasn't enough of Neal letting his hands go to fully exploit that and truly win the fight. And then, you know, shout out to Sean. Sean came on to the VIP chat room earlier on and shared this as a post from Jeff Neal, where he basically said that he got sick before the fight. You know, 3 days before the fight, was suffering from vomiting and diarrhea, and so he had to cut 37 pounds in a week. So he's walking around at about 208 pounds. Had to cut 37 pounds in a week. And he said that he probably should have pulled out the fight, and it was a dangerous and stupid decision to go ahead with the fight, but he did anyway. So, you know, look, it's one of those things, man. I always say, you know, when it comes to gambling, we're not betting on robots, right? This is the problem. This is the risky side of gambling. You know, we spent about 2 hours researching this fight, but at the end of the day, you know, we can spend as long as we want researching a fight. We can have as much knowledge of MMA and as much knowledge of gambling as we want. It doesn't mean anything at the end of the day if our fighters don't perform to the best of their ability, or they don't perform how they have in the past. You know, this is why when you see these guys and they'll make bold statements like, you know, this fighter's got 100% chance of winning, or, you know, there's no way such and such fighter loses. It's just so rookie of them to say these things. It's so Padawan. You kind of just want to just slap him in the face and say, shut up, and actually, you know, be a little bit more humble and learn about the sport, you know, learn about humans, you know, psychology in general, and just learn about how gambling works, right? Ultimately, we're not betting on robots, and so, you know, you can't feel crazy confident on any bet, because ultimately, if you're betting on humans, anytime you hand your money over and you bet on a human being, you have no idea what they've gone through, you know, in their preparation and run up to that fight or football match or tennis match, wherever you're betting on. You know, we're not betting on robots, and this kind of thing is a really good example of that. You know, if we would have known Jeff Neal was going through this kind of stuff, there's no way we would have bet him, but we don't have a crystal ball. We bet on Jeff Neal. He didn't perform as well as we had hoped, and it is what it is. Can't do anything about it. But thankfully, we were still able to make a profit on pre-fight bets, albeit not a very big profit. But this weekend's card against UFC 260, or this weekend's card UFC 262, is a cracker. Another solid looking card for betting, so hopefully we can grind out another profit this weekend. So that is loose bets. Now, we haven't had any tight bets since Clay Guida beat Michael Johnson a very long time ago. I think that fight was back in February, so it's crazy how long now we've gone without any tight bets. However, it is worth noting that within this time, we have had 2 tight bets on fights that were cancelled. So 2 tight bets that we've had since February. We had Gregor Gillespie to beat Brad Riddell, and after seeing how Gillespie performed last weekend against Carlos Diego Ferreira, I think it's fair to say Brad Riddell would have been in a lot of trouble with how bad his takedown offense and ground game is. I think Gregor would have given him hell. And we also had another tight bet on Jeremy Stevens to beat Drakkar Closer, which is obviously cancelled. So we haven't had a tight bet for a while, but it's not our fault. You know, we have had 2 in there, but both fights have got cancelled. So now let's take a look at live betting. Let's get into live betting. So if we go to live betting, again, the profitability chart for live betting. Wait a minute. Wrong link. Oh, this actually brings me on to my next point. We do have some spaces available for live betting this week. I think we've got 3 spaces available. So if you'd like to live bet with us this week for UFC 262, just come to the homepage, MMABettingTips.com, link in the description below. Go betting tips, live betting tips. You can sign up for live betting there, but I clicked the wrong link. The live betting results are actually on the results page, which I need to rebuild. This is top of my list. We will get this page rebuilt soon enough. So if we look at live betting, again, this profitability chart doesn't include our profits from last week. We did make a profit on live betting last week. We make a profit on live betting most weeks, and last week was no different. We made around 2.5 units of profit. We had 2 live bets, went 2-0. I don't like to talk about our live bets, specifically the live bets we had on these videos, because it can make it easier for bookies to kind of work out who's in our live betting group and close their accounts. But another profitable night, and as you can see, just doing phenomenally well. In the last 10 events, we've made a profit on 7 of the last 10 events, and you can just see as we go back through all these weeks, just tons and tons and tons of profitable weeks. The vast majority of weeks we make a profit, and last week was no different. 2-0 for a very healthy 2.5 unit profit. And don't forget, if you're not in our live betting group, you can be for this week. There's a couple of spaces left available. MMABettingTips.com, live betting, jump in there. Right, what else do we have to cover? Let's take a look at the lab bets. So into the lab. So if you don't know what the lab is, there's all kinds of explanations here. What is the lab? But basically, the lab is an area of my website where we can experiment with different kinds of bets over a long period of time to basically determine whether these bets are going to be profitable long term. Then if they are profitable long term, they get moved over to the actual pre-fight betting section of the site. If they're not profitable long term over a sample size of 200 bets, we just scrap them and move on. And we've got a bit of a production line at the moment where Matern, who is also a member of my website, is doing great work for us at the moment. Matern is in charge of the lab, basically in charge of creating and managing new experiments for us. So Matern is currently working on about 15 new experiments, and you know, as we start to we don't want to put new experiments into the lab straight away, because we don't want to fill the lab up with loads of experiments that aren't profitable, that don't have a lot of promise. But as soon as we think experiments may start to have some legs and may start to grind out a long-term profit, then they will come into here. And you know, we're cooking up about 15 at the moment, and some of them show real promise. So expect to see new types of betting experiments coming to the lab soon. I haven't had time to write in the explanations for what the over-under experiment is. Pretty self-explanatory though. It's where we bet over-unders, or fight goes the distance, fight doesn't go the distance. As you can see, profitability chart is looking amazing. You know, nice, steady, consistent uptrend. Very profitable on these bets across a relatively small sample size. Across 41 bets, we're up around 20 units, I think, because remember, these results don't include May's results, and I think we're doing all right in May. We might not be, I'm not 100% sure, so I don't actually know if UFC 261 was this month or not, so let's just focus on, I'm not sure what date it was, if it was April or May. So anyway, let's just focus on our over-unders from the last event. So we had one over-under on the last event, we went for the over 1.5 rounds in Ludwig Klein versus Mike Trezano fight, 3 units at 1.50 minus 200. It was a nice, easy winner. Very, very nice, easy winner. I'm sure we are in profit this month. I'm sure UFC 261 was in April. Let me just fact check this. Yeah, it was April 25th. Cool. So yeah, we are up on over unders this month, because we had the over 2.5 rounds in the Jotko versus Strickland fight last week for 2 units. So yes, we're up about 3.5 units on these over under bets this month, which means we'll be up about 22 units on over unders. But obviously there's 2 events left to come this month, so there's plenty of time for us to fuck it up and make a loss. But anyway, yeah, over unders are doing great. This win rate is insane. We're doing extremely well on these over under bets, and yeah, hopefully we can dig up some more profitable ones for this week. Scrolling down to the even money bets, again, haven't had time to write this in, but the basic explanation of this is I am forced to put a bet in here for every single fight in the even money odds range, which basically means for any fight that has odds of between 1.65 to 2.30, which would be about minus 150 to plus 230, I am forced to put a bet in this even money experiment. Forced, gun to my head, who would you bet under these even money odds? With my rationale being, we do so much research on UFC. We put so much time into researching these fights. We're such great gamblers, and we know so much about betting on the sport of UFC, that even with whatever edge the bookies have, if I go head to head with the bookies betting even money fights over the long term, I can beat them. And so far, we're proving that to be true. As you can see, we've grinded out 20 units of profit over a sample size of 181 bets. And last week we did very good. We had 3 even money bets on last week's card. Carlston Harris to beat Christian Aguilera, Phil Hawes to beat Carl Dorcas, Jun Yong Park to beat Taffin and Chukwi. So we went 3-0 on these even money bets, which was a great result. Absolutely brilliant stuff. We've already got Jamie Pickett in this week to beat Jordan Wright at UFC 262. I researched that fight last Friday. And yeah, doing great on these even money bets. What's even more interesting is basically the rules of the lab is, once we determine over a decent sample size that these bets, or once we determine over a decent sample size that a lab experiment is profitable, they then get moved over to the pre-fight betting section of the site. So the over-under experiment still has a long way to go. Still a relatively small sample size of 41 bets. But what's really cool about the even money bets is that we've now beat the bookies and produced a solid profit over a very, very large sample size of 181 bets, going all the way back to UFC 247, whenever that was. I'm not sure when it was, but quite a while back. So what's really cool is we're very, very close now to hitting the 200 bet sample size, where if we're profitable after 200 bets, we move over to the pre-fight betting section of the site. We're very, very close to that. And what's even interesting is once we hit 200 bets, if we're still in profit, it moves over to the different section of the site. And this card features loads of even money bets. So we've got Oliveira Chandler, Dariush Ferguson, Hermanson Shabazian, Barboza Burgos, Chukagian Araujo, Pickett Wright, Lee Shevchenko, Lutz Aguilar, Munoz Jacare, Schnell Bontarin, and Vanata versus Grundy. So there's like 8 or 9 even money bets on this card that we're going to be putting into the even money database. And this could make or break us, man. This could send our results further to the moon. Or it could be struggle city. Maybe we go 0-8 or 0-9, which is very fucking unlikely because our performance is good on these even money bets. But anyway, if you're a member of my website and you see even money bets disappear from the lab soon, it's probably because I've moved them over to pre-fight bets. Because I'd imagine within the next month we're going to go over the magical sample size we want of 200 bets, and these bets will be proven to be profitable over a long period of time. An experiment which isn't profitable is obviously main event picks, which is Struggle City. And this is basically doing an experiment which is very similar to even money bets. But the difference with this one is, gun to my head, I have got to put in a pick for every single main event fight. Who I think is the better bet. Now, I personally fucking hate this experiment, to be honest with you, because it's tricky. It is very, very tricky. For example, last week, it was horrible because I was actually talking to Quad in the VIP chat room on Friday, and he was like, I'm surprised Waterson is your pick for this week. And I was like, stop it. Stop talking. Like, Waterson isn't my pick. Like, she isn't my pick. She's not. I never thought Waterson was going to beat Marina Rodriguez. If I thought Waterson was going to beat Marina Rodriguez, I would have bet, Waterson. Her odds were very, very generous. But she was my main event bet because Marina Rodriguez's takedown offense and ground game is so fucking bad. I just couldn't bring myself to bet her as a huge favourite. I think her odds were around 1.48, right? Which was 1.48 minus 208. Couldn't bring myself to bet her at those odds. So it was like a dog or pass situation. Very reluctantly put Waterson in. Never thought she'd win. But this is why I really hate this experiment, because I'm kind of forced to bet for, I don't bet them, but I'm kind of forced to put in fighters into this database that I would never dream of betting myself, and you can see it just hasn't performed well. But who knows? It may over time. Still a relatively small sample size of 69 bets, and look, we'll keep it going until there's a sample size of 200 bets in there. Once we've got 200 bets in, then we'll decide, is it profitable? Great, we'll keep it going. Is it not profitable? And if it's not profitable after 200 bets, we'll sack it off, we'll kill it dead, and we'll stop doing it. But, we're only down 12 units. That's nothing really if you think we've got 130 more bets to come until we hit our sample size of 200 bets. So I'm hoping I can turn it around, but yeah, it's icky, man. It's a tough one. This is like the ugliest chart you're ever going to see. Although there is another ugly chart on the website, which I will show you. The final thing we've got to talk about is our prop bets. So if we go to prop bets, people are always asking me about prop bets. When I'm doing a prop bet stream, where you can find my props is easy. Go to MMABettingTips.com, link in the description below. Betting tips, prop bets, boom, here's the prop bets page. So prop bets are profitable. Over the last 2 years, we're up about 30 units on prop bets, and we're also profitable this month as well. If we look at the bets we've had for this month, you can see that we're up. So how much are we down first? That might be easier to add up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're down 6 there, but then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5. So we're up 1.5 units on prop bets this week. No, we're up 1.5 units on props this month. What's interesting about props is, even though we're only up 1.5 units this month, we've had some real near misses on these props. So we had Dominic Reyes to beat Jiri Prochazka by knockout at TKO. That one came very close. Jiri was dropped in that, I think it was second or third round, can't quite remember. But anyway, Jiri came out in an interview on Ariel Helwani's show and said he was out for a few seconds in that fight, so came close to hitting that prop. This one missed wide. This one was kind of close, Justin Jacoby to win in round 3 would have been a huge winner at 11.0 plus 1,000. He did have Kutalaba in some trouble in that third round. This one came pretty close as well. Obviously, the fight ended a draw. Actually, I'm not sure if that is actually a loss. That might actually be a push. Let me know, guys, in the comments below. Is this a loss or is it a push? Because we bet on Kutalaba to win by decision, but it actually ended a draw. Now, if you would bet on Kutalaba straight, it would be a push. So is this a push? Let me know, boys. Is this a push? I'm not 100% sure. I haven't checked. Let me know if it's a push. I'll have to check. Hiltzy is my dude that keeps these results up to date for me. I'll ask him. But this might actually be a push, which means if it is, we're up 2.5 units on the month. But anyway, we did come pretty close. This ending a draw is what it is. I have a feeling that's a push instead of a 1 unit loss. I don't know. But we made 3 units when Luana Carolina beat Boliana Batalio by decision. She came through for us in a big way there. Had another easy winner, Sean Strickland, to beat Christoph Jotko by decision. That was a nice easy winner. Jun Yong Park to beat Tafon and Chukwi to win by decision. Another easy one. Then we took a little bit of a harsh loss here. A little bit of a harsh loss, to be fair, with you know, Ludwig Klein winning by decision. I did personally feel he beat Mike Trezano by decisions. We probably should have won that one, so that one's a little bit harsh. And then this one just kind of confirms how irritating I find that main event pick lab experiment. Even though I put Waterson into the main event pick lab experiment as a dog or pass bet, I actually thought that most likely outcome would be Marina Rodriguez to win by knockout or TKO, which she didn't, so we lost that bet. She did have Waterson in some trouble, mind backed up, you know, inflicting big damage on her, but we know Waterson's tough as fucking nails, right? You know, we know Waterson can take a shot. I just thought that, you know, with the short notice situation, with Waterson, you know, fighting upper weight class when she really, you know, should probably be fighting in the atom weight division. I thought that maybe Marina Rodriguez, big, strong, physically imposing opponent, would cause some big trouble to Waterson. But Waterson hung in there just fine. Actually, arguably inflicted more damage on Marina Rodriguez, you know, potentially even breaking Rodriguez's jaw, that nasty swelling she had. Anyway, that's it for this video. We did it. Nice, quick one. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to check out my website, MMABettingTips.com, if you're not a member. You'll love it there, boys. You'll absolutely love it. We will be, you know, researching UFC 262 all week on Twitch. Check out my Twitch channel below, link in the description. You'll also find live streams for all my fight research on this page here, my live stream archive. Get into it. Not my live stream archive, sorry, my live stream page. I'll be streaming all my research there, as well as throughout the week, posting short 10 to 20 minute breakdown videos on my website for all the fights taking place this weekend, which you can catch in the strategy guides section of the betting tips page. So anyway, thank you for watching. Have a great week. I hope you crush it. UFC 262. At some point this week, I'll be dropping a YouTube video breaking down the main card. But until then, boys, have a great week. Crush it. And yeah, I'll see you all very soon. Nice one, guys.